So lovely good evening and welcome to Camnet Television News. I'm Jeffrey Ziambo to present. Our top stories in the news tonight: over 10 families of MANDEVU NAPSA houses evicted. The UPND judge former President EDGAR LUNGU using 15 houses belonging to his wife. All is set for the 4th Media-African Union coordination meeting on Thursday. And in international news, owner of a bar where 21 teenagers died arrested in South Africa. In sports news, Copper Queens Chess World Cup. And once again, another news in detail. Over 10 families have been evicted from their houses in Lusaka's MANDEVU constituency, which they say was bought from the National Housing Authority in partnership with the National Pension Scheme Authority, NAPSA. One of the affected residents who spoke to Camnet News, Beatrice Kateshe, explains that a group of 20 men suspected to be bailiffs stormed their houses on Tuesday afternoon, claiming they were ordered by the court to evict them. Ms. Katesha says the bailiffs were in the company of armed police officers who harassed them before evicting them. Meanwhile, NAPSA could not give a comment by broadcast time, but asked Camnet TV to send in a press query. More in the following report.
Over 10 families have been sent in the court in Lusaka's MANDEVU constituency after alleged court bailiffs issued them with an order of eviction of the houses they bought from the National Pension Scheme Authority, NAPSA, and National Housing Authority, which they claimed is not legally theirs. The houses, situated in SOS area, are alleged to have been sold off to an Indian national who evicted the families Tuesday, July 2022 with the help of police officers. The affected residents lament to this journalist that they've been legally occupying the houses for over 5 years and explain that the purported new owner claims that the houses were wrongly sold to them by the National Housing Authority and a company identified as MKP.
Forward. Because I am stuck. Where am I going to go? This has been my home for 5 years. We did not get any notice. Nothing, not even we will be here in the next 24 hours. Nothing like that. This is why we are crying for someone to come to our aid. And now, because tomorrow I'll have nowhere to go.
Another resident who opted to be off camera emotionally explains to this reporter that some of the properties were destroyed during the eviction process and had to brave the code with her children.
They plotted, I don't know, it's not fair, it's not nice. People are shaken. People are traumatized. Look at these kids, as you can see. These kids from school yesterday, they found chaos. Already their things were outside. They don't even know where to start from to look for clothes to change. They haven't bathed, they haven't eaten. How is that? You as a black person, you come and evict me, and you go home and sleep, and even come back and even have the guts and the audacity to come back following day.
And Beatrice Kateshe wonders why they've been directed to evict the houses without an eviction notice.
No notice to give the occupants who are here that there are these challenges, which there was a court order that we should be evicted from this place. That someone has bought this, but they said even if you have the documents,
you have to move out because the owner who bought this area wants everyone out. If you want, they even requested us if we can be compensated. I was given 2 weeks. Others have been given 48 hours. Others have been given 24 hours.
You've been given 2 weeks to vacate the house.
2 weeks to vacate the house. Then we start negotiating for compensation. Then if I refuse, they bring me back. If I don't, they give me money.
I also reached to the lawyer representing the alleged Indian buyer, whose phone went unanswered, but the site security manager, Gilbert Mateo, expressed ignorance on the matter when reached for a comment.
What is happening? For as long as they tell me to say, don't give access to this one, I'm following that. I don't even know what happened, when it started, what is going on, how it's going to end. For as long as
However, when reached for a comment, NAPSA Public Relations Officer Alice Maplanga indicated that the authority was only going to respond through a press query. Camnet News will follow up the matter to its logical conclusion. Nelson Zulu for Camnet News in Lusaka.
Youths in Munali constituency have pleaded with government to create skills training facilities in Kalikiliki compound, which they say will deal with increasing illicit activities. In an interview with Camnet News, John Mwate says youths in his area are into bricklaying and welding but lack the necessary skills to perform according to the acceptable standards. Mr. Mwate says the UPND administration should put mechanisms in place that can foster such agendas to fruition, especially under the Constituency Development Fund CDF program. More in this report.
These youths of Lusaka's Munali constituency in Kalikiliki compound have called on government to create skills training facilities in the constituency as a way to promote youth participation in wealth creation. Speaking to Camnet TV, John Mwate says many youths in this compound are into skills development, but they do not have proper avenues that can support them with the necessary training.
I find that they are from school, but lack of financial support, they are not in college, they are not in higher institutions of learning. So you find that these challenges that we are facing in the society, there is theft, there's fighting everywhere, and people are not working. My main concern on the youths, they are not working.
They say they have been applying for Constituency Development Fund CDF, however nothing has been done of late, hence them calling on governments to consider accelerating their efforts. Messi Chanika reporting for Camnet TV News in Lusaka.
United Party for National Development, UPND Secretary General Batuke Imenda has charged that former President Edgar Lungu was known as a poor lawyer before ascending to presidency in 2015, hence cannot afford to buy his wife Esther Lungu the 15 flats in State Lodge area which are currently being investigated. In an interview, Mr. Imenda alleges that the wealth that the former first family does not coordinate with the family's income, stating that not even presidential salaries for the last 7 years can make them as rich as they are now. He was reacting to sentiments by the former head of state at his residence on Tuesday that his family is being persecuted, adding that the Patriotic Front has nothing to complain about as they were known to be a vindictive government. More in this report.
Public debate has erupted on whether or not former Republican President Edgar Lungu was right to have issued remarks on the fight against corruption in the country, targeting specific individuals. The remarks have, however, unsettled United Party for National Development, UPND Northwestern Youth Chairman Bruce Kanema, who says all politicians in the country should desist from politicizing every developmental agenda in the country. Mr. Kanema is of the view that corruption fight is not targeting individuals and challenged those cited before the law enforcers to be answerable.
This man does not mean well. And since he declared that he is ready to...
This is a picture of former President Edgar Lungu and President Hakainde Hichilema recently taken during the funeral of veteran politician quota winner, which made many people think that the rival Patriotic Front PF and the United Party for National Development UPND were finally making peace. This, however, is not the case, as former President EDGAR LUNGU on Tuesday made accusations against the current administration, stating that they were persecuting the former First Family by investigating the 15 flats in State Lodge area belonging to former First Lady Esther LUNGU. The said flats are being investigated by the Drug Enforcement Commission DEC, as the records are said to be missing at the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources. Speaking when PF members of Parliament and other party members gathered to offer solidarity to the First Family at their residence on Tuesday, the former head of state alleged that he is aware that the current administration is after him.
You don't have to be very intelligent to know that after her is me. Yeah. So this is a sequence. You're just peeling the onion. So I'm ready. All I can say is I'm ready. And they talk about immunity. Yes, they can take away the immunity, but I'll be able to answer to whatever charges. So I'm ready. Even if they say, look, I'm hiding behind the immunity, I'm not hiding anything. And even now, they're at liberty to question me and the citizen I can answer. So don't worry. I know what's going on. The strategy is to make sure that they kill PF. They kill my political life. I'm still politically active, although not in leadership, but I can still give an opinion. I can still influence certain things.
Responding to the sentiments, UPND Secretary General Batuke Imenda has challenged the former president to produce evidence of the sources of income, alleging that he was known as a poor lawyer before ascending to presidency. Mr. Imenda charges that not even presidential salaries for the last 7 years can amount to the property that the former First Family now has.
Everyone knows Lungu, the poor lawyer. That's what everyone knows. Everyone knows the story that had been reported in the media where President Lungu was accused of having squandered the money belonging to a widow. That is what someone can shamelessly claim to have shamelessly that Lungu was a prominent lawyer when he was living in Chawama in a miserable house. Today the wife can have numerous plots, numerous properties which are very expensive, that are not worth than all the money earned by the husband for the period that he had been in government. 7 years that the husband has been in the government, add all the salaries, they will not be total to the value of those properties they are talking about.
A number of officials, mainly from the former ruling Patriotic Front, have been summoned by investigative wings since the change of government in August 2021 to clear the properties which are suspected to be proceeds of crime. The current administration has been claiming lack of interference in this, stating that investigative wings are conducting an independent job. Zipporah Mshala, Camnet News, Lusaka.
Meanwhile, United Party for National Development, UPND Northwestern Province Youth Chairman Bruce Kanema has watered down remarks by former Republican President EDGAR LUNGU over the fight against corruption in the country being a witch hunt. Mr. Kanema says this is not time to politic, as it will only land the country into chaos, and challenged the youths to desist from being used as tools to create political mileage on behalf of politicians who do not mean well for their welfare. And UPND Copperbelt Youth Chairman Walen Hinyama has challenged the opposition political parties in the country to criticize the government objectively and help provide solutions to the challenges the country is facing. More in the following report.
Public debate has erupted on whether or not former Republican President EDGAR LUNGU was right to have issued remarks on the fight against corruption in the country, targeting specific individuals. The remarks have, however, unsettled United Party for National Development, UPND Northwestern Youth Chairman Bruce Kanema, who says all politicians in the country should desist from politicizing every developmental agenda in the country. Mr. Kanema is of the view that corruption fight is not targeting individuals and challenged those cited before the law enforcers to be answerable.
This man does not mean well. And since he declared that he is ready to surrender his immunity so that he clears his name, I will therefore call upon the President of the Republic of Zambia, Mr. Kainde Chilema, and all the well-meaning parliamentarians to move the motion to remove the immunity of this man so that he can test the sort that he has brought forward by himself.
Mr. Kanema has also challenged the opposition leaders to provide objective criticism.
We don't need much politics right now. We have got someone who is very sober in the State House. We have got a very formidable cabinet which has got vibrant men and women which all of us need to support to ensure that our country begins to realize what we have. We are a blessed country with natural resources, but we are failing to exploit them because of politics. Politics is almost overtaking something, overtaking our country. That is why you can see that people like Membe, people like Chirufetayali, people like Boma and Lusambo, you see all these characters, they have got nothing to offer.
Meanwhile, UPND Copper Belt Youth Chairman Walen Hinyama has also challenged all individuals with grievances against the law enforcement agencies to desist from engaging government in such matters.
If they have got issues with the law enforcement agencies, let them just answer, not accusing the head of state and insulting the government. Let them answer. They arrested the people. People died during their reign. A lot of people, if we talk of Mapenzi Chipuro, Rizda Matapa, and many others.
Nelson Zulu for Camnet News.
Center for Primary Care Research CPCR Director Professor Faston Goma has called on government to rethink enacting the tobacco bill as it contradicts government's intentions to reduce the effects of tobacco among citizens. Addressing the media Wednesday, Professor Goma says the tobacco bill in its form seeks to increase the production of tobacco in the country, adding that such industries cannot be trusted with the prevalence of tobacco abuse in the country. He says Zambia is subscribed to the African Union, which has adopted health in all policies approach, especially that the world is grappling with many pandemics. He has urged lawmakers to refrain from making rushed decisions, adding that farmers can explore other commercial crops which would not compromise the health of citizens. Meanwhile, Professor Goma has expressed hope that the Tobacco Control Bill may see the light of day in this sitting of Parliament, which he says is a great bill that the parliamentarians should focus on. More in this report.
Convention on Tobacco Control, in which the government pledged to do all it takes to protect its current and future generations from the devastation caused by tobacco and tobacco smoke. The Zambian government, and indeed the African Union as a whole, have adopted a health in all policies approach to lawmaking, which principle we implore and we are urging the government to uphold at all times, especially at this time when the African continent is ravaged by several pandemics.
African Court on Human and People's Rights President Imani Daoud Aboud has called on government to consider ratifying the protocol to the African Charter on Human and People's Rights in order for Zambians to benefit from the services offered by the court. Speaking when she paid a courtesy call with her delegation at the judiciary headquarters in Lusaka, Ms. Aboud says the court is one of the organs of the African Union established by members of states to strengthen the protection of human rights in Africa while recognizing African values and traditions. Meanwhile, Deputy Chief Justice Michael Musonda says the judiciary is committed to upholding and protecting human rights and the rule of law in the country. More in this report.
Since its operationalism in 2006, with only 32 of the 55 African Union member states having ratified the protocol to the African Charter on Human and People's Rights, Zambia is being urged to consider ratifying so as to benefit from the services offered by the court. Wednesday, a delegation from the African Court on Human and People's Rights paid a courtesy call to the judiciary headquarters in Lusaka, where they met up with the Deputy Chief Justice.
The African Court on Human and People's Rights. I was one one thing which struck me immediately when I was being told about this, your visit, your generous visit, was that your mission, part of your mission is to engage our country in terms of considering to ratify the protocol on the ratifying the protocol the African Charter on Human and People's Rights on the establishment of African Court.
The delegation is in the country to sensitize government representatives, non-governmental organizations, and other institutions involved in the protection and promotion of human rights in the country about the court. The court is one of the organs of the African Union, a continental judicial institution established by member states to strengthen the protection of human rights in Africa. The purpose of enacting the Charter is to create an instrument that sets human rights standards while recognizing African values and traditions. And speaking to the media shortly after the closed-door engagement meeting with the judiciary, the president of the African Court says she looks forward for Zambia being part of it.
It's just to have some engagement with our colleagues. The African Court being the continental court, but we can't work alone. So we have to have some sort of engagement with domestic courts or national courts like this one. Secondly, it's just to have some engagement and to talk the way forward about the Zambian to ensure that they are ratifying the protocol which established the African Court on Human and People's Rights. We know it's not their mandate, but we are mindful that being one of the state pillar, they have the role to play in making sure that the human rights and some fundamental rights of Zambian citizens or nationals are promoted.
Meanwhile, Deputy Chief Justice Michael Msonda says the judiciary is committed to upholding and protecting human rights and the rule of law in the country.
Right. Is one that resonates with our mandate ourselves as an institution to protect and promote the rights of the people of this country. And so we feel very privileged that our colleagues from the court came to us. We always look forward to a day when our own country will join the family of African nations on that high table where the rights of citizens will be championed and properly promoted. So really, that's all we can say. We look forward to further engagement with our colleagues going forward.
The values and protection of human rights is a key principle under which the good governance environment pillar of the 8th National Development Plan is anchored. Miriam Kemba, reporting for Camnet TV News.
Lusaka High Court Judge Pixie Yangailo has ordered that the claim by former Health Minister Dr. Shitalu Chilufya for damages in the sum of $50 million be struck out from the action against SEC for being incapable of being quantified or proved. This is in a case in which Mr. Chilufya sued the Anti-Corruption Commission, demanding $50 million damages over his malicious prosecution on corruption-related charges last year. Dr. Chilufya in this case argued that despite SEC not having evidence against him, it went ahead to prosecute him for being in possession of property suspected to be proceeds of crime between September and August 2020. More in this report.
While hoping to claim $50 million United States dollars from the state on account that he was wrongly prosecuted, hence the state should compensate him, former Health Minister Dr. Shitalu Chilufya seemed to be losing the lawsuit as the High Court in Lusaka has ordered that his claims for damages be struck out from the action against the Anti-Corruption Commission for being incapable of being quantified or proved. Dr. Chilufya's move to sue the commission last year follows his prosecution that occurred in 2020 when he was accused of 4 counts of being in possession of property reasonably suspected of being proceeds of crime, contrary to Section 71, subsection 1 of the Forfeiture of Proceeds of Crime Act, number 19 of 2010, and he was later acquitted. A year later, after his acquittal, he then sued the Commission in the High Court, seeking damages for malicious prosecution, libel, and defamation, intimidation, as well as aggravated damages, thereby claiming a compensation of $50 million United States dollars. In his statement of claim earlier filed before court, Dr. Chilufya indicated that between September and August 2020, he was prosecuted for possessing property suspected of being proceeds of crime involving more than 200,000 United States dollars to purchase shares in Samphia Marines and Tourism Services, Sparkle Guest House, now Henry Courtyard, and the boat which proceedings he attended at a great cost. He claimed he was innocent but was subjected to and exposed to criminal proceedings, and he was at risk of being imprisoned if he did not defend himself, claiming that SEC did not have evidence or reasons to arrest and charge him. However, in a ruling delivered by the judge in conduct of the matter, Pax Euyangelo, she states that the $50 million United States dollars claimed by Dr. Chilufya should be struck out from the pleadings for being incapable of being liquidated, as they arise from baseless claims. The court has also found that the claims of defamation by Dr. Chilufya do not disclose the actual weights that SEC allegedly used to defame him, nor has leave to plead libel by schedule being sought from court by the plaintiff, as the allegations of defamation against the SEC by Dr. Chilufya descriptive in nature and in the interest of justice. The court has inclined and ordered that Dr. Chilufya amends his pleadings so that they are in conformity with the formal rules of the court within a stipulated period of 7 days, adding that until Dr. Chilufya amends his pleadings as directed, the case shall stand dismissed for want of prosecution. Miriam Kemba, reporting for Camnet TV News.
United National Independence Party UNIP member of the Central Committee, Mubanga Chileshe, has expressed disappointment at the lack of respect for the presidency once one is out of power. In an interview, Mr. Chileshe says it is unfortunate that the country has remained with a mentality of persecuting the former presidents whenever they leave office, embarrassing them and calling them all sorts of names. Mr. Chileshe advised Republican President Hakainde Hichilema against the idea of mistreating the former head of state and his family, as that can be reciprocated to him once he leaves office. He has since advised Zambians to emulate the Westerners, where former heads of states are left to enjoy their retirement, even when they had made some bad decisions when they occupied the top office. Meanwhile, Mr. Chileshe has urged investigative wings to be professional in the manner they are carrying out investigations, as their time of reckoning will also come once governments change.
In this country, there are a lot of foreigners who are owning a lot of wealth and they are not being followed. Even in these government institutions, they should reconsider the way they approach these issues of investigating citizens once someone has got money. Organizations like DEC, Anti-Corruption Commission, a Zambian will just deposit 50,000 kwacha today in a bank, you are being questioned. 100,000 kwacha, you are being questioned. Who told you that Africans, we must be poor? This is why we brought independence, is to liberate our people politically and economically, so they also begin to make money. They also begin to have wealth. Wealth should not only be seen in a white skin, no. I can take you back to our neighbors in Angola. You've seen what has happened over the death of Santos. Today it is on the news. The Angolan government is engaging a lawyer to mediate between the family of Santos and the Angolan government. Because some of Santos' children have refused to allow government to handle the funeral of Santos because of this issue of being mistreated when you have left office. They are saying, why should he become a darling to the country when now he has died? He now becomes a hero because now he has died. Now you want to give him an honorable funeral. You know, these are the issues we need to be looking out for. Let's have respect and dignity for one another.
The African Union AU Commission says one of the key issues to be discussed at the 4th Mid-Year Coordinating Meeting, which starts on Thursday this week, is progress made towards regional integration. AU Deputy Chief of Mission Todeta Ratabaye, who spoke during the first press briefing on the meeting, says the Heads of States Summit will also look into the continent's response to the COVID-19 pandemic that has affected African countries in the last 2 years. He says the meeting will be preceded by an Executive Council of Foreign Affairs Ministers who will be putting up the AU budget for 2023. And speaking at the same briefing, Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation Permanent Secretary Isabel Lemba says 12 heads of states are expected to attend the meeting.
We will have in our agenda for the Executive Council mainly the budget of the Union for the year 2023. The Assembly mandate the Executive Council to adopt formally this budget. And before coming here, I think our colleague at the level of ambassadors discuss and finalize the document in Addis Ababa before coming here. So they will submit to Ministers of Foreign Affairs tomorrow and the day after for consideration and adoption. This is the main content of the meeting of the Minister of Foreign Affairs. At the same time, they will prepare the agenda of the Mid-Year Coordination Summit.
This very important summit is for the member states of the African Union, where we will have in our midst, we're expected to receive a total of about 12 heads of state of the 54. I'm sure you're all wondering why 12 out of all the 54. This is a mid-year coordination meeting. It is a meeting of the regional economic communities. We have 8 regional economic communities on the continent, including SADC, COMESA, ECOWAS, and all the rest of them, which Ambassador Ratabai will go into detail. And on top of that, we also have the 5 members of the Bureau of the African Union at the head of state level. Of those five represent the 5 regions of the continent: North, South, East, West, and Central. However, one of the regions does not have representation, so we are expecting 12 of the 13 heads of state who participate in the mid-year coordination.
This is Camnet Television Main News. We'll take a break. We'll be back with more news after the break.
Your skin is the biggest muscle in your body. That's why we make sure that Oracle is #1 when it comes to taking care of your precious skin. Oracle Pure Petroleum Jelly and Glycerin soothes, moisturizes, and keeps your skin perfect. Oracle Pure Petroleum products for that perfect skin.
Welcome back. We'll continue with the news. Higher Education Authority Director General Professor Simukanga says there is need to standardize higher education in Africa to make it easy for students to easily migrate within the continent without being inconvenienced. Speaking during the official opening of the Harmonization, Accreditation and Quality Assurance in Higher Education Hackers Workshop in Chongwe Wednesday, Mr. Simukanga says this will also improve the quality of education in Africa, as each country has its own grading system, meaning that some grading systems are inferior to others. Meanwhile, speaking at the same event, Higher Education Authority Director of Quality Institutions of Higher Learning in Zambia should come up with internal modalities of monitoring quality as one way of attaining quality education. More in this report.
The need for institutions of higher learning to provide an excellent quality of higher education cannot be emphasized, as this speaks to the quality of graduates that a nation produces. The poor performance of some graduates at places of work has continued to be a source of worry and a damage to the quality of education at some institutions of higher learning. This has prompted calls for higher education not only in Zambia but in Africa as a whole to be harmonized to ensure a uniform quality of education across the continent. Stakeholders from about 40 institutions of higher learning in Zambia have therefore convened a 3-day workshop at the University of Lusaka Unilas campus in Silverest area to discuss how higher education in Africa can be harmonized. Speaking during the official opening of the workshop, Higher Education Authority HEA Director General Professor Stephen Simukanga says the current scenario is that each country has a different grading system, which makes it difficult for students to migrate across the continent.
My son, he did A-levels. He did the GSS, whatever, and A-levels on top of that. He goes to Capital. They ask him, no, you have to do English for 1 year. Then he's given 2 more books for literature, which he did, I don't know, when he was in grade 11 or something. And even inferior to those books, Chinua Achebe, but others which are not even, when you read the English, he got frustrated. So he comes after 1 semester. He's supposed to go back. Yes, my friend, are you prepared? No, I'm not going back. Why? I was humiliated. Look at this. So he never went back. So he ended up doing everything here. So, even at that level, there must be harmonization.
Meanwhile, HEA Director of Quality Assurance, Dr. Vitalis Ichungu, says it is sad to note that most private institutions of higher learning are driven by profit and not quality. He further says there is need to put in place mechanisms which will put to an end the practice of students paying people to write assignments on their behalf.
Yesterday, some organizations that has written to us that the graduate Director General, this engineer we have employed with a degree does not seem to be much enough. And this engineer has presented to us a certificate from one of our duly registered higher education institutions. Can you please authenticate this information? We are having problems. It's concerned among employers. The graduates themselves are also concerned.
Meanwhile, UNILAS Vice Chancellor Professor Pinalo Chifuanakweni has also added his voice.
And is intended to bring together quality assurance experts in higher education institutions in order to build capacity in quality assurance, create a network of quality assurance experts which will promote higher education standards throughout the country.
Quality education has been noted as the key driver of Agenda 2063, which hopes to see a developed Africa, as it will ensure that citizens are equipped with a variety of skills needed for development. Zipporah Mshala, Camnet News, Lusaka.
Universal Investment Center for Development Chief Executive Officer, Mr. Akhtar Maunga, has called on the private sector to assist the current administration to achieve its goal of bringing about grassroots development through the Constituency Development Fund CDF by contributing towards the cause. Mr. Maunga says the current administration has opened up the space for the private sector to operate freely through the recently launched Public-Private Sector Dialogue Forum, hence the need to give back to the government. He was speaking at the United Party for National Development UPND Secretariat in Lusaka when handing over a vehicle and tricycles to be used by women, the youth and cooperatives in Mwinilunga district of Northwestern Province for investment purposes. Meanwhile, Mudanyama Ward Councillor in Mwinilunga district, Mr. Stanley Bulawayo, says the machinery will help constituency members to leverage the potential in the area that remains untapped, stating that Mwinilunga is rich in natural resources such as forests and rivers.
When we visit Mwinilunga, we discover that a lot of people, they are ignorant of the investment opportunities that the new Dawn government has put in place. Mwinilunga also is a big district which have got places far apart. So we thought if we donate a vehicle, it would be easy for the district office under the UPND to go into areas, rural areas, to explain to the people their variable investment opportunities. It is also an opportunity for us to promote foreign investment in the country, to partner with us. You can imagine, like Mwinilunga district, those opportunities that are there, if we unlock them as local companies, private sector, we are able to invite other companies from outside the country ourselves, not as government. And if we partner with them, we can develop Zambia.
As you are aware, Mwinilunga is blessed with a lot of natural resources that are not used for development, such as forests, rivers, land, and mineral resources. In addition, Mwinilunga is also blessed with 3 monuments.
The Zambia Agency for Persons with Disabilities, ZAPID, has urged both private and public institutions to ensure that they incorporate persons with disabilities in their recruitment adverts. Speaking to the media Wednesday, ZAPID Acting Director General Nicholas Goma is concerned that most employment adverts in Zambia do not have a provision of inviting persons with disabilities to apply for vacant positions. Mr. Goma adds that persons with disabilities have several times been left out in the employment process despite them being competent for the advertised jobs, which he says is unfair to them. More in the following report.
In order to attain Sustainable Development Goal number 8 by 2030, which promotes sustained, inclusive and sustainable economic development, full and productive employment and decent work for all, persons with disability need to be included in the recruitment adverts. Organizations need to assess what positions persons with disabilities are capable of performing. However, the Zambia Agency for Persons with Disabilities Acting Director General is disappointed that there is lack of inclusivity of persons with disabilities in the recruitment adverts. Nicholas Goma is the acting DG.
Particularly of any individual with a disability. I wish to make an appeal, especially to our private sector, that government already has demonstrated, and it is a policy direction, that at least every recruitment, whatever recruitment process we are undertaking regarding employment within our various sectors, there must be at least 10% of the total workforce. At least we must have a representation of persons with disabilities within our workforce. So indeed, I want to use this opportunity to make an appeal to our private sector that government has already even demonstrated that it is a government that is not only talking but is also walking the talk. Under Ministry of Health, Ministry of Education, as you may all be aware, Ministry of Education allocated out of the 30,000 recruitment of teachers, 10% of that 30,000 have to be persons with disabilities.
Mr. Goma adds that including persons with disabilities in recruitment adverts will encourage them to advance their academic qualifications.
Disabilities to apply as teachers, which accounts for 3,000. and that has actually been set aside for persons with disabilities. Similarly, when you look at under Ministry of Health, we have actually been in constant touch with the Permanent Secretary there, Dr. Magwende, and the team HR, and I think there has been total assurance that even under health, out of the 11,000 that will be recruited, they will give us, they will ensure that they also meet that 10%, if possible, even go beyond, depending on what we will provide.
SDG number 8 also wishes to achieve high levels of economic productivity through diversification, technological upgrading, and innovation, including through a focus on high value-added and labor-intensive sectors by 2030. Blessings Chakwila, Camnet News, Lusaka.
You're watching Camnet Television News. We'll take our second and final break. We'll be back with more news after this break.
Team, the trajectory of the business looks very positive, and it looks like we'll be able to launch the ministry.
There's so much data.
Mom?
Yes, baby?
It says here, global warming and climate change is caused by the pollution from careless activities of human beings.
Wow! Son, do you know I can turn my phone into a TV remote?
How's that possible?
It's so easy. Check this out.
Be smart, be fast with mega data from Zamtel. Get your 15 GB mobile data for only 100 kwacha, 30 GB mobile data for only 200 kwacha, and your 70 GB LTE data bundle with free Netflix, YouTube, Facebook, and WhatsApp. Visit our Facebook page, website, or service centers countrywide for more information. Zamtel, your digital lifestyle partner.
Welcome back. And now in international news, 3 people have been arrested after the mysterious deaths of 21 youth in late June at an informal bar in East London, Southeast South Africa, police said Wednesday. The 52-year-old owner of the illegal but tolerated bar and 2 of his employees aged 33 and 34 were detained for serving alcoholic beverages under illegal conditions, a police statement said without identifying them. The owner is expected to appear before a judge on August 19 on charges of selling alcohol to minors. His 2 employees have already been fined 2,000 rand each and will only go to court if they cannot pay it, police said. The 21 youths aged between 14 and 20 died in mysterious circumstances in the Enyobeni bar in the township of Scenery Park in East London. Most of the bodies were found in the bar with no apparent injuries. Some died within hours in hospital. For more in international news, here's a roundup.
3 people have been arrested after the mysterious deaths of 21 youths in late June at an informal bar in East London, Southeast South Africa. Police said Wednesday the 52-year-old owner of the illegal but tolerated bar and 2 of his colleagues were detained for serving alcoholic beverages under illegal conditions. The owner is expected to appear before a judge August 19 on charges of selling alcohol to minors. His 2 employees have already been fined €120 and will only go to court if they cannot pay. The 21 youths aged between 14 and 20 died in mysterious circumstances at the Enyobeni bar Most of the bodies were found in the bar with no apparent injuries. Police are still trying to unravel exactly how the teenagers died. Authorities had ruled out a fatal stampede, and 2 weeks after the tragedy, autopsies and tests have not determined the cause of death. 26 others who were admitted to the hospital have since been discharged.
Civil parties in the case of the jailed former senior Rwandan official Laurent Baruta have welcomed the ruling by a Paris court after handing him 20 years of complicity in the African nation's genocide. The parties say this was a relief for the victims of atrocities during the 1994 massacres, in which an estimated 800,000 Tutsi and moderate Hutus died in 100 days of mass killings. It is a shock. At the same time, he was convicted of complicity in genocide. So I'm not going to beat about the bush. Just a thought for all the victims, for all the survivors we have had in court these past weeks, who have come to lay down their burden, who have come to lay down their suffering, who have come to tell Mr. Bossi Baruta what they have endured. The trial involved more than 100 witness statements, including some from survivors from Rwanda, either in person or by video conference. Bossi Baruta, who has been in France since 1997, has myriad health problems and was allowed to remain under house arrest during trial to receive treatments. The most important thing in reality is that the trial took place, that this man who embodied the power in his prefecture was obliged, even if it took 28 years, to come and answer questions, to explain himself in front of the victims, in the presence of the survivors, and to listen to the survivors' accounts. At the heart of the case against the 78-year-old were several security meetings, either ordered or attended by Bossi Baruta, which prosecutors had argued were actually planning sessions for the killings.
It's now time for sports news. And in sports news, Zambia is looking to secure automatic qualification to the 2023 FIFA Women's World Cup when they face Senegal in the quarterfinals of the 2022 Total Energies Women's Africa Cup of Nations WAFCON Wednesday evening. WAFCON is Africa's flagship women's competition, and the top 4 teams at this year's competition in Morocco will qualify for the World Cup, while 2 losing quarterfinalists can still qualify if they win the intercontinental playoff matches. En route to the quarterfinals, the Copper Queens were unbeaten in Group B, registering a draw in their opener with Cameroon before consecutive wins against Tunisia and Togo to top the group with 7 points. Senegal, on the other hand, were second best to Morocco after finishing the group on 6 points. To end Camnet television news, the headlines once again. Over 10 families of MANDEVU NAPSA houses evicted. The UPND judged former President Edgar Lungu using 15 houses belonging to his wife. All is set for the 4th Mid-Year African Union Coordination Meeting on Thursday. In international news, owner of a bar where 21 teenagers died arrested in South Africa. And in sports news, Copper Queens Chess World Cup. We now look at the Camnet verse of the day, which is coming from Philippians 2, verse 9 to 11. God exalted him, Jesus, to the highest place and gave him the name that is above every other name, that at the name of Jesus every knee should bow, in heaven and on earth and under the earth, and every tongue confesses that Jesus Christ is Lord, to the glory of God the Father. Thank you once again for watching the news. My name is Jeffrey Siambo. Good night.